welcome back to our discussion. At this point, we're talking about trust. The other day, I had a very interesting experience where, well, I actually got duped. I hate admitting it, but yes, I trusted someone and they took advantage of it. So today we're discussing, is not trusting people affecting our daily lives? In studio with us to discuss more is Enoch from University of Ghana. We have Boy, who's a former student of Accra Polytechnic, and Perry, who is also from the University of Ghana. So guys, what does this mean to you? Trust, is it affecting our daily lives?
Exactly, it is affecting our daily lives, and to me, I would define trust as the firm reliance on the integrity, the credibility, and the abilities of a person. And once you trust someone, all these things come into play, and you relying on them would finally affect your assertion as to who to trust and who not to trust at a particular time.
Mm-hmm. Perry, do you think trust is a big part of our culture?
To say verbally, yes, it is. Day in, day out, people have expectations from people, both old and young, which they expect them to actually come to fulfillment with. So if they don't, they are playing a huge part in the trust aspect, which is detrimental to society. So if they don't, then it ends up being a failure in trust. So the expectations duly count in society, especially with reference to their family, academics, a whole lot.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts, Enoch?
Well, I think we cannot do away with trust, whether we like it or not. One way or the other, we would have to trust individuals in certain respects. If you are going to sleep under the same roof with your mother, then you trust that she's not going to pick up a gun in the middle of the night and then shoot you. So
that's rather severe.
In certain respects, we trust human beings. It's part of our culture. We cannot do away with it entirely.
But you see, trust comes in so many forms. And before you can trust someone, in our society, in our part of the world, especially in Ghana here, it's sometimes very difficult to trust someone. You may wholeheartedly give in whatever that you have just on the basis of trust. And in the end, you may be down.
Why is that?
You see, it's sometimes very difficult to really just go into details to know why all those things happen. But trust is something that is very, very difficult to earn the trust of someone. It's very difficult, but you hardly knows how those things do come about.
Let's narrow it down to trust in a workplace. Let's look at, let's say, theft. You know, it's a form of trust. You have to trust the person next to you that they're not going to steal when you leave your bag in the open. Or you trust that when someone says they're going to come at 8, that they're really going to come at 8. Or when someone promises you, I'm going to get this work done. And in a workplace, all teamwork. You rely on the person to finish. So you have to trust what they're saying so you can continue with your job. So let's look at that. What are your thoughts on that? Why is it so difficult for us as Ghanaians to trust each other and actually get the work done?
Well, one of the things that I think should be considered here is before you are able to trust anyone, the person should prove him or herself trustworthy. You know, you can't just get up and then look at someone's face and then say, oh, this person is trustworthy, let me trust the person. The person might disappoint you because you don't know what's going on in the minds of the person. So in the workplace, you should be able to prove to your boss that you are trustworthy. Maybe the times that you report to work, how you fulfill your promise, your duties. If you give him your word, how you bring that into fulfillment, all those things count. You prove yourself trustworthy, then your boss is able to trust in you.
But a lot of us fail.
You see, it shouldn't be only at the workplace. For me, I am much concerned about the society in which we find ourselves to be in, especially everywhere you find yourself. You see, trust in Ghana is something that if you lose it, you go and that will be all. I am speaking from, let's say, an experience or where I have seen some things coming into play. And
give me an example.
You see, before you yourself will be trusted, you must be able to give some benefit of the doubt that yes, I must be trusted. The person trusting me must also be trusted. It has to be two-way. you take in, I take out. You understand? So one person cannot just conclude that you cannot be trusted, and at the end or in the end, that person's own assertions and how he or she may conclude may not be the same line that you may also be taking yours from. You understand? So trust, for me, is very, very delicate. That before you can earn it, before someone can trust you, much must go into it. But in the end, what are we all expecting to get if all these things do not come in as we are all expecting?
To a certain level, to what he's saying, people sometimes take the decision to trust people, others to trust people without knowing. In the workplaces, you end up trusting someone without even knowing. When you actually have high expectations of the person, your dependency ratio concerning a particular person at the job site is very, very high. We can categorize that as trust, but we might not call it trust because we have, by virtue of our religion, said that we are not supposed to trust any man. But what do we call that if we are at the end attach emotional and logical actions to whatever the person is supposed to do? If the person fails you, one, you are emotionally broken. Two, your logic is telling you that I expected more from his abilities and yet he couldn't fulfill. That's the same way we have portrayed in our very social, I won't call them networks, I'll call them institutions. One, academic institution. We have a whole lot of policies that are at the end factored to bring us good and end up to our detriment. And we lose trust right from the academic hierarchy to the SRC theory. Then we move to maybe our families. When I was a kid, I remember my dad used to tell me, if you pass your exams, I'll take you to US. And I'll be so happy, and I'll study all night, and I'll pass my exams. I remember there was once I came second in pre-technical skills, and all he did was bought me an ice cream. And I was like, to a very long extent, although he was trying to push me to get them, I had lost a little aspect of trust in him. I would take his words for granted, because if he actually went according to what his abilities could foot him, then definitely I would have had a very high esteem of trust in him.
Let's quickly take a look at what people think about how trust is affecting their daily lives.
Trust means being able to leave our work for other people to do, basically. Just believing someone else can do what you want to do. When it's not there, it just means that there can't be a good working relationship, because it just means I can't leave my stuff for you to handle, and which is bad, because what if I'm not in the office? What if someone has to do what I have to do? Then there can't be movement for the business as a whole, because everyone would work individually when it should work as a team, really.
If there is no trust, you cannot, maybe you are two or three, you cannot cope with something. Assuming that you work together in maybe in a company and there's no trust between the two of you, it means that the work will not go well. The work will not go well because when the other one does something, you will not trust him. And you think maybe he didn't do it according to, or maybe he's trying to spoil your thing, so the work will not go well. One thing, I have betrayed somebody before, and somebody betrayed me before too. Yeah. What is it? Because I was dating one girl. When I was dating this girl, unfortunately, I went for another girl. So I impregnated that girl, and I have to take that girl as my wife. And the other two that I was promising that I'll marry you, I have to betray her. And
I think trust is at work is being able to feel like your workmates are your second family, so to speak. So, I mean, aside from having to work, then there are the relationship issues like working with someone and things like that. So being able to feel like you're in good hands outside of doing proper work, you're in good hands with those people.
So generally, I think people believe that trust is important. So how are we going to use trust to help develop our nation?
First of all, I think that in developing our nation, trust is something that we cannot do away with. It has to be part and parcel of us. When we look at what is happening in this country, sometimes people who are in the helm of affairs need not to be blamed so much because we, the individuals, happens to be part and parcel of the trusting processes. Because we expect so much from them, and when they are not able to deliver, the trust vanishes. But if we expect something from them and they are able to go beyond what we expected, then we are able to build the trust very, very well so that it can develop the nation. Politicians will mount on stage and then say all sort of things, say a whole lot of things, that when I come, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, that, here and there. But it is different when you are outside and it is different when you are inside. So when you go inside, those that you promised that you are going to work on ABCD for them, they will not understand why you are there and you are not able to fulfill whatever that you promised them. So in that particular instance, the trust vanishes once you are not able to fulfill the campaign promises and the rest that you give them. But in other words, if we are able to give lesser expectations, and when they get there, they are able to give more expectations, then we can be able to build on the trust that will be able to ensure that we build ourselves as a nation and develop ourselves very well.
Enoch, what do you think?
Well, I think if we want to develop as a nation, it will start from individuals. Mahatma Gandhi once said we should be the change we want to see in the world. So if we want to develop, we shouldn't expect some messiah from somewhere to come and then change the system, change the world order, change our economy. We should start from individuals. If I tell Perry to meet me here at 7 o'clock, I should make sure that I'll be there before 7 o'clock. So I prove myself trustworthy. Then Perry knows that Enoch is not someone who jokes with his time. If he says 7, he means 7. So if as individuals we start showing that we are trustworthy, then the individuals make up the families make up the communities, and then the communities make up the whole nation. So from individuals we'll build it up like that, and then the nation will develop.
Why do you think that we can't do it but other nations can, are managing to do it?
It has to do with the perception that we have in our part of the world.
What perception do we have?
That we are always downplaying ourselves, we do not believe in ourselves, we do not strategize ourselves very well. These are some of the things that really affect us. Someone will want to believe and trust in the white man more than his own black man or woman, and that to me is very, very bad. It's very, very bad. And if we want to
but
develop,
there's a reason for that.
there is a reason for that. One, when it comes to time, we have our own special time, Ghana Man time. GMT, Ghana Man time. Instead of it to read as Greenwich Meridian time for the black, for the white man, we have hours to be for the Ghana Man time. So if we would want to develop as a nation, and we would always want to go by our own definition for the GMT, then we will always be at where we are whilst others are developing.
Yeah, Perry, let's find out some solutions. What do you think the solution to this problem is?
I really enjoy where it was going to. Like, there are factors with regards to development. Every factor is supposed to play its role to ensure general progress. If we have a factor that is being sluggish, I'm in my own context, I would group them maybe under the youthful, under the working, under the more laboring. Some might group them under private and governmental and others. Whatever be the groupings, all the factors must do what they have to do. If we have everybody being up to the task with reference to right from timing to availability of resources to even word of mouth, would even match and go beyond the expectations of what the world is expecting from us. And it's so bad that people, as he said, have less expectations of themselves. They can do far more than they think, but they settle for so less. And it's so characteristic of the Ghanaian community, where you have even families expecting so less from their kids when their kids can do so much. So I think from the basis, if the factors regarding development can pick up these wonderful initiations of being up to the task, right from their mentality to their actions, and nothing is too small. Nothing is too small. Nothing should be overlooked. If we want to say something, we should make sure whatever we mount a stage to say should be the truth. What we can foot by our resources, by our strength, by our time. If we can't do anything, don't promise. Because if you promise, then you have high hopes. we have high expectations, and if you don't meet those expectations, then you are not
But
trustworthy.
Perry, you see, sometimes you don't have to blame those who expect so much. If I come to you and tells you that I'll do A, B, C, D, and another person comes and tells you the same, that I'll do X, Y, Z plus A, B, C, D, you may choose to believe in the one who has combined all these two. Meanwhile, that is the person.
Who's
Or
not
that
going to
person
fulfill.
exactly, you see. So we are also happens to be part of the problems. We must not expect that it is magic. No, everything has to be a process.
You make it sound sweet.
You see. So if we choose to get someone who will combine the two, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, than someone who would want to only target and focus on A, B, C, D,
yeah.
then we will be able to get somewhere. But if it has to do with only talk shoes,
Yeah.
like we see and have been experiencing,
All talk and no action. That is what it
you
is.
see. So we must be able to graduate from one point to another
Yeah.
gradually as a
Alright.
nation, and I can assure you we will get there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I think what we're all saying is really to walk your talk. As we're saying, your word is your bond. And when you start with yourself, I think the nation will go very, very far. Now, this is one of the last discussions we're having in this season. Our season is ending very soon. So this is the last discussion. So join the discussion, though, online on our Facebook, facebook.com/The Be Bold Show. And also on our website, we'll be continuing this discussion, thebeboldshow.com. Let's take a break. And right after the break, we have Free to Dream.